So we have our start scene loaded here, and we can see quite clearly we have our stick, and there's no current ice tree on the stick, and there's also no particle cloud or point cloud in our scene. So it's pretty much a start scene. We have our stick, and we also have our null, and we can look at that and notice the null has an icon, rings, and a size. So we're going to start by just having the stick emit particles. The easiest way to do this is select the stick, and from your simulate menu under ice create, you can go to emit particles from selection. It will take a few seconds, and then what will happen is you'll see there's particles now being emitted from the object. With the ice tree selected, we can hit refresh, and then we can hit play, and we can see those particles being emitted from our object. At the moment they just come out forever, so we want to control the age to start with so the particles don't live forever. We do that by using a couple of the age nodes. If I type age, we can see there's a set particle age limit, and we're going to use that one to set up the particle age limit to about 3 seconds. Once we have that, we can go here and connect it. Instead of the ice tree, what we could do, we're actually going to connect it to the execute on emit from the emit node. And this means that every time a particle is emitted, that particle has an age limit set on it to 3 seconds. When we hit play now, we see the particles emit, but they do continue coming even though we set an age limit for 3 seconds. That's because even though they have an age limit, we haven't told it what to do when it hits the age limit. And there's another node here called delete particle at age limit, also under age, and we can connect that one to our ice tree, the final ice tree in this case. We hit play, just move that so we can see it's hooked in there, and now after 3 seconds the particles will start to delete. We can also start to edit some of the values inside the emit node. Our speed is set to 5. I'll bring this down to maybe 1 or 2, just so they come out slower. And 1's pretty good in this case. And the next thing we want to do is our rate. Our rate's pretty good at the moment, but we'll change that later on as we change our shape and size once we get to the stage of rendering. So everything else I'm pretty happy with, so I'm going to go here, close that down, and we're going to add some forces now to make sure the particles actually move in the direction we want them to move. So we'll go here and look at forces, type forces, F-O-R-C-E-S, there we are, and we can see an add force node. This allows you to add different vectors to drive the direction of the particles. So we're going to start by hooking this in. Again, want it between the simulate, just make sure they do get out a little bit before they come out up. And that's pretty good. They still don't look very fire-like. They're coming out, they're being forced up, but they're not really giving me any kind of fire motion. So we're going to use a couple more nodes to do that. We're going to start with a turbolize node. There's several different turbolize nodes, and the one I like to use is turbolize particle velocity. I could turbolize a position, or I could turbolize a vector, but I actually find the particle velocity gives me a nice effect of both speed and direction. And we just hook this again into the ice tree. In this case I just reconnect the simulate node to the end and add this one in. When hit play, initially you're going to see some complete craziness going on, and that's because the values are too high in the turbolize. We'll bring the strength down to say 0.1 or 0.2, until we get a strength we like, and I'm pretty happy with that. The scale in this case seems okay, and the strength is okay at the moment. You can also make it animated to have things change over time. That's again up to you if you want that. In this case, the turbolize itself is fine because the particles are somewhat random as they come out. But if you notice patterns, animated will remove some of those patterns you get to see. The next node, I'm going to add in one more node to again give it some more of a clumping look, and that's going to be another force. And this force would be a neighboring particle force. And what this does, it creates clumping. It makes particles attract each other. So it's great for giving a kind of clumping effect. And I find with fire, it just gives a nice additional effect. We'll hook this into force 1. This is a fairly slow one. Really, you'll notice everything slows down when you put this one in. But it does create a nice effect. You may want to increase the strength a bit. I'll increase it up to maybe 2. And you'll start to get particles staying together and not being as spread out as much. Again, it gives a more flame-like look to it. So, pretty happy with everything here. I may want to adjust the values more when I get to rendering stage, but so far everything's looking pretty good. So we're going to move on to the next step. We're going to control where the particles emit from, because we have this igniter that's doing absolutely nothing at the moment. And we're going to use this to make sure particles only come from where we initially ignited, and then we'll look at spread and other effects in later examples.